Everybody, welcome back to the A.C.E Football Academy. We are presenting our NWSL preview of 2024. If you're viewing this, we have just had our kickoff weekend of the NWSL. We've had some interesting games. I think the one thing that we want to point out is NWSL has signed a pretty big media contract to be on ABC as well as the Ion channel. That's a massive deal for NWSL. It also brings bigger salaries to bring in bigger players down the road here. So clearly NWSL is growing. They are expanding. And I think they're heading in the right direction where they're more comfortable, bringing in bigger contracts now down the road.
Yeah, and we're going to highlight a few of them, but there's lots of quality clubs right now. And so they deserve the recognition. They deserve the spotlight. They deserve their 90 minutes of fame, so to speak. Mm-hmm. So really excited for them. You know, it's kind of similar, the MLS moving all to Apple TV. I love that ABC has latched on. You know, and the difference between lashing on with Apple TV and ABC is really, you know, if you think about it the way it should work, ABC should get even more exposure because it's a typical cable network. So I am happy for the NWSL. I'm excited for the season, Coach. Let's dive in.
Yeah, so we're going to start off looking at the two newest expansion teams. That is Bay FC as well as the Utah Royals. Bay FC coming out of San Francisco, the Utah Royals based out of Salt Lake City. So let's dig into Bay FC. Their biggest stuff right now, they signed star Nigerian forward Asisat Ashwala. Signed her over from Barcelona. Coach, I remember her from the World Cup.
Yeah, absolutely.
Playing for Nigeria. So a quality striker for Bay FC. She's teaming up with their star forward, Rachel Kundanaji.
Nailed it.
Joined from a world record deal, at least at that time. Unfortunately, she went down with a knee injury. She is from Zambia, Coach. Having two star strikers on an expansion team, I think the quality is going to be there for their team. I'm expecting them to at least score quite a few goals. The question is, can they prevent the goals in the long run?
Yeah, you know, of all the teams in the league, they made a splash, right? They announced themselves like, hey, here's what we're going to do. We are going to score goals. We're going to, you know, just try to beat you on the scoreboard, basically. But they did add some defenders, Caprice Diadasco, you know, among others. So I don't know if so much like it's a matter of are they good enough? It's a matter of are they going to click? Are they going to mesh? Are they going to be able to get this team competing right off the bat?
Yeah, and that's going to be up to their head coach or manager, Albertine Montoya, to get things squared away. Coach, 2024 will be a success if Bay FC, in my opinion, becomes the second club in NWSL history to make the playoffs in their expansion season.
That is interesting, and maybe this is my just, I don't know, like lack of confidence in expansion teams, especially as like an FCC fan.
Oh, right. We're far too familiar with that.
Yeah, I think for me, Bay of City is a success if they don't finish last.
I think that's fair. For an expansion team, that's more than fair.
Beat somebody. Don't finish last. You know, come in 13 of 14, and maybe we beat the next team we talk about, who is the Utah Royals.
So looking into the Utah Royals, they went to a more conservative build from their coaches, where they picked up veteran forward Michelle Vasconcelos. I'm assuming I'm saying that correctly.
Yeah, I think you know.
Her over from Gotham FC, as well as former Louisville forward Paige Monahan. They picked up a couple other midfielders from other teams as well. But the most intriguing thing is they had the number 1 pick in the 2024 NWSL College Draft, picking up 20-year-old forward Ali Sitnor from North Carolina, coach. And, you bring in youth at that level, and if she sticks with them, that's going to be quality for that expansion team there, coach.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they are led, if I'm not mistaken, by a former U.S. women's national team player, Amy Rodriguez. So a lot of experience there already just in the coaching staff. So you just gotta kind of feel you're right. They took the top player in the NWSL draft. They have a girl in Amani Dorsey who's finally going to start. She sat on Gotham's bench for a couple seasons, so she's finally going to get the start. They have a proven goal scorer in Paige Monaghan, again, who is at Gotham. So they're plucking players from the right squads, I guess, so to speak. If you want to build a team, you go get the second and third or the bench players from the best team, right? That's what you do.
That makes sense.
And so I'm excited for them to see. I love your question that you did earlier about the Utah Royals have a great season if
2024 will be a success if
they don't come in last.
I think for this team here, that's going to be the question. They have a head coach making her debut as a manager.
Mm-hmm.
They've gone out and they didn't really pick up any big names. It's just veterans. That doesn't mean that's quality veterans.
Well, I think when you look at, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Good.
I think when you look at both of the expansion teams, people, just when you look at it, people are expecting a little more from Bay FC than they are the Utah Royals. And that's probably fair on paper.
I agree.
So if I'm the Utah Royals, I'm thinking, okay, let's go finish 11th. Let's go finish 12th. And I think that's a successful season.
I agree with you, Coach. Let's move on to the local team for us, Racing Louisville FC. They signed 6'1" dynamic midfielder Taylor Flint, formerly Kornek.
Kornecki, I think is how you say that. I don't know if that's correct, but that's how I've been saying it.
She left the San Diego Wave to come join Racing Louisville. Coach Yanez looking at Louisville's kind of a work in progress in the offseason. Again, no major signings over the offseason. That's going to make things difficult. Not bringing in quality players. Coach, we keep asking the same question. 2024 will be a success if... Well, I don't even know if making the playoffs is realistic here. Is it possible with the new format? Absolutely. But there's no big signings. There's no big-time strikers. You're really depending on your veteran chemistry to get you through the season here.
Yeah, I'm actually going, Coach, to disagree a little bit.
Okay.
I think they have enough. They have Savannah DeMella running the midfield, who we saw get some U.S. women's team experience. They have Jalen Howell. So they have a really, really solid midfield, I think. The question is, can they score goals? If they can score goals, I think they're a playoff team.
Okay.
But you're right. Go ahead.
Let me throw this stat up to you real quick. Entering their 4th season in the NWSL, Racing Louisville have yet to make the playoffs.
Yeah, and that's hard, right? But also think about the expansion teams that we talked about on this show tonight with the Royals and Bay FC. What are we asking of them? We're asking them not to finish last. So Racing Louisville has gone in a different direction with Beverly Yanez as their head coach. They are, I think they're good defensively. Aaron Wright is on the back line. They brought in Linda, I'm going to mispronounce this, Matalo from Houston. I think overall they're a pretty solid club. The question is, are they going to score goals? Are they going to have to bank on draws, or is it going to be one of those situations where if they fall behind 1-0, they're beat. They're done. Because if that's the situation, then you're right. They're going to struggle to make the playoffs. If they can get a goal scorer, or if they have anyone on that squad that can step up and start scoring some goals, then I think they got a shot to make the playoffs.
All right, Coach. So 2024 will be a success for Racing Louisville if
they make the playoffs.
I think that's fair. I mean, they don't need to win the playoff game, but they've got to start progressing as an organization.
Yeah,
they've got to get to the playoffs.
Because you figure, we have no idea how the season's going to go, but if you figure they make the playoffs, they're going to be that 8-9 seed, and so which means they're going to run into, a Gotham or a San Diego Wave or somebody like that, and then you don't expect them to win that game. Yep. But get in, and then let's see what happens.
All right, Coach, let's move on to some of the more interesting teams here. We're going to start off with the San Diego Wave FC, who I believe had the best record of the season last year. As we said before, they lost Taylor Flint, who moved on to Racing Louisville. Wave has brought in Savannah McCaskill from rivals Angel City out of free agency. But, Coach, my biggest thing for them is they've got 19-year-old Jaden Shaw, who is already getting discussions about being a preseason MVP, possibly Golden Ball winner for the NWSL this season.
Well, yeah, she was the best player on the field for the women during the Gold Cup, and she played 20 minutes in the final, which we could debate all day while that happened, but she was phenomenal. Just her, and you want to talk about ace, she's the hardest working player on the field all the time. Her attitude, her commitment, her effort is phenomenal all the time when she's on the field. And you're pairing her with Alex Morgan.
Let's be serious here.
Who I know, and you and I have come out on multiple occasions about the age and things like that being an issue for the U.S. women's team. But I don't care what you say. Alex Morgan is still the best striker on the U.S. women's team right now. And pairing her with Alex, that could be a ton of fun.
Yeah, I can't wait to watch these two. This is a matchup I want to see. This is what organizations dream of. You have the all-star veteran with the potential MVP newcomer coming in, and they can work off of each other, where when Alex leaves,
it's her.
They still got Jane Shaw there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Coach, 2024 will be a success for San Diego with FC if, for me, they got to get to the NWSL championship match.
Man, see, I was going to take it a step further, and I was going to say it's so hard to put this on a team, but for me, it is a success if they win the league.
When you have the best record, you kind of expect to win the whole thing.
And we saw this with FC Cincinnati last season in the MLS. And
absolutely. Good point.
Is it awesome to win the Supporters Shield? Do they have a name for it if you win the NWSL?
I'm sure they do. It is.
We should know that. But we don't.
It's right there, and you're right.
Well, I'll keep talking and you think of it. But yes, that is the I'm gonna throw one at you. I'm gonna go back to the Bethlehem Banshees and their check boxes.
Okay.
That NWSL regular season title, that's that first check box.
Absolutely.
But I think the San Diego Wave have multiple check boxes, and you gotta believe that they truly feel that they should check that final box at the end of the year, and that is to win the championship. And so that's why, again, I know it's a lot to put on a team preseason. But that's got to be their mindset going into this game that we're going to win the championship.
I think that's fair. I think that's more than fair. All right, Coach, let's move on to the next team, the Portland Thorns, who, let's be honest here, last year they were beyond stacked, and I don't see much really different this year. They had to let go of star Crystal Dunn, who moved on to Gotham FC as a free agent. They are bringing back Christine Sinclair, the NWSL's second all-time leading goal scorer, as well as Becky Sauerbrunn and a few other veterans on the roster. Some youngsters that I want to point out here. U.S. internationals, 18-year-old Olivia Moultrie, 25-year-old Sam Coffey. Look, Coach, you have just no different than Jaden Shaw. You have these young, talented players that can grow on your roster with some of the all-star veterans. You've got a quality side that's going to go in and give teams some problems.
No, I could not agree more. And that's what it's all about, right? Like, let's get some players who can compete at a top level. And if they're 19, 20, 21 years old, that's even better, right? I mean, that's what I love about. I mean, Portland's season last year, let's be honest, was probably a disappointment for them too.
Sure.
And so I feel like getting back to where they expect to be is going to be a massive, massive moment for them. You know, Christine Sinclair, Becky Sauerbrunn, probably on their last rides, right? Can we go out and say
I would say that's more than fair.
Both of those players who, and let's not knock it, they have been at the top of their game, top of their position for a long time. But you got to figure that they're wanting to add to their legacies by adding an NWSL championship. You know, you mentioned Sophia Smith, Morgan Weaver, all those players that they are trying to develop.
Mm-hmm.
But I know we're going to talk about this in a little bit later, but I think the Portland Thorns, and again, we're going to mention Gotham in just a minute, they're kind of in the same wavelength where they have a bunch of U.S. women's national league players, and in the NWSL, there's no
international
break. And so that means when the U.S. women's national team is playing, they're gonna be missing lots of players. And so how does that feed into playoff positioning?
It's massive.
If I'm the Portland Thorns and I end up with, I don't know, the 6th seed, and I have to play the San Diego Wave and that is not good for me. So I think the way that plays out is possible. You know, Sophia Smith, Morgan Weaver, all those players have to stay healthy for them. But if they do, I think it could be a really fun year for Portland.
All right, Coach. 2024 will be a success for the Portland Thorns if
they make it to the second round of the playoffs. They win their first playoff game.
I'm completely on the other side of you. I think they need this needs to be the beginning of their dynasty.
Oh, okay.
Talk about a team that's beyond loaded with talent. They've got youth. They've got veterans. Why didn't they win this last year? What? They have too much. They have too much power. And even though the San Diego Wave had the best record, I believe the Thorns scored the most goals throughout the year. Why is this not a dynasty?
Well, looking at, a website that I go to a lot, the Girls Soccer Network, I love this website. If you haven't been on it and you are a women's soccer fan, I highly recommend it. I mean, they have Portland finishing 8th. I know.
Blows my mind.
I
put them 8th.
I think it would be fun for you and I to both in our own rooms rank the teams 1 through 14 and then compare, because I think we've been drastically different
probably
when it comes to this team, because the team we're not even going to mention a whole lot about tonight, the Seattle Reign, is who the Girls Soccer Network has winning the league this year.
For me, it just doesn't add up.
Yeah, but anyways, we could debate that all day, but I don't know. So for me, Portland, get to the playoffs and win a game. For you, it is win the playoffs.
All right, let's just move on to our next team. Returning champions, New Jersey, New York, Gotham FC, who has one of the most impressive off seasons that, I mean, you can follow NFL, NBA, and I don't think anyone's ever had this kind of a turnover after winning the championship. And having this kind of a turnover. So let's go through. They signed 4 women's national team players out of free agency. Crystal Dunn, Tina Davidson, Rose Lavelle, and Emily Sonnet.
And those aren't like mid-tier U.S. women's national players.
These are starters.
Those are the core.
These are starters.
Of the U.S. women's national team.
And not just debut starters over the last year. These are core, as you said, core players on the women's national team, all now on Gotham FC. Not a bad way to start your season with those type of players. Between bringing in those new players, they still have Lynn Williams, which is a goal scorer. Jenna Nightswanger, we've all heard the name.
Listen, I love all the players that you mentioned. Williams, Lavelle, Davidson, all those girls. After watching the women play, the national team play the past couple weeks, I'm most excited this season to focus on Nightswanger. I think she is a difference maker on that wing. Mm-hmm. And I think she can play the outside back. I think she played the wing. I think she's going to be a ton of fun to watch on that team.
I think the most concerning thing for them is their center backs. Not really an upgrade there. Maybe one of the issues that they weren't a top-tier team throughout the season in 2023. No upgrade. So is that going to be a problem going down the road? So, Coach, you're a Gotham FC guy. You're wearing the shirt. Love that they're champions. 2024 will be a success for New Jersey, New York, Gotham FC if.
And again, I hate to put this on them, but you don't go back to back.
After that kind of an off season, you have to repeat as champion.
And that's why they did it. They clearly plan on going back to back. I do think, of course, they ended up going on. I mentioned this earlier. I think Gotham FC is a phenomenal example of what I mentioned to you, where they're going to have a ton of U.S. women's national team players missing when the U.S. national women's teams play. But for a squad of that caliber, all it is about is getting to the playoffs.
Yeah.
And then you have everybody, and then you go on your own. That is what Gotham FC did last year. If I'm not mistaken, they got the final spot last year based on goal differential.
Right.
And then they got all the people back, and they went on the run. So I think that's what they try to do this year. Hey, let's just get into the playoffs. Then we have everybody, and we'll go on our run. Now, again, then you question chemistry and things like that, but clearly that wasn't an issue last year.
Right.
And clearly if 6 of your players are all still playing on the same team, you're not going to lose a whole lot of chemistry there. So I think if they don't go back-to-back, they'll be disappointed.
All right, Coach. Again, we are the A.C.E Football Academy, and we are bringing you the NWSL preview. We want to thank our sponsor, the A&C Car Wash, locally owned and operated here in Richmond, Kentucky. Please go see them for all your car washing needs. Coach, we've gone through a few of the teams. Right now, with the expansion teams, there are 14 teams currently in the NWSL. I'm going to give you some odds here. Okay?
Talk real quickly before we dive into this. 9 make the playoffs? Is that correct? 8 make the playoffs?
Yeah, they've reformatted everything.
They did.
Where I think you're correct. The top 8 teams move on into the playoffs. which that's more than 50% of the entire league going into the playoffs.
Right.
So do you get another Gotham FC opportunity here where they barely make the playoffs and go all the way to win the whole thing? So, because last year in 2023, give you some stats, the Portland Thorns led the league in 42 goals scored, league best. Houston Dash, which makes no sense, had an 18 goals against average. That was a league best. And then you had the sorry Chicago Red Stars, a negative 22 goal differential, league worst. And, Coach, I don't see much different in Chicago Red Stars this year. Houston Dash, I don't know much is going to change from them. So, Coach, let's look into some of the betting odds on the teams who could win the whole thing. I know you're a Gotham FC guy. Do you think, as the returning champions, that they should have the best odds to win the whole thing all over again?
Normally, I would say no because, as we know, in any sport, it is so hard to repeat. You have the target on your back.
That is true.
You are, you're the team, you're everybody's Super Bowl, so to speak. Everybody wants to beat you.
Mm-hmm.
But, man, with the offseason they've had, I mean, look, and you and I, it's no secret, you and I are huge Rose Lavelle fans.
Oh, absolutely.
But adding her alone makes you a better squad. But then adding her and Davidson and Sonnet and all, I think they should be the favorites. Tell me they're not.
They're not. In fact, they are, I guess you could say, fifth as far as most likely to win the whole thing. They're at a plus 700. Next in front of them is Angel City SC at a plus 600. And then you've got North Carolina Courage and Portland Thorns, both at a plus 400. And San Diego Wave, currently listed as the top team to win the whole thing at a plus 300. With Alex Morgan and Jaden Shaw having that kind of a strike force, if they can be dominant, that makes sense. But for Gotham FC to be at plus 700,
yeah, that feels like a good bet.
I think they're both a little baffled.
Yeah, it feels like a good bet.
If you were to put them at a plus 400, not be at the very top, okay, I got that. But that's an offseason that should put you at the very top.
No. So what you said there, the fourth best odds, is that what you told me?
Fifth best odds.
Well, and here's what's crazy. I just looked it up. It looks like 6 teams made it to the postseason. They are expanding to 8 teams this season in 2024. So, that means they're not even in the top half of the favorites. I don't get that. I'm going to go blaze some money on Gotham FC right now. Plus 700. I get the San Diego Wave. I get it. I understand. And if you want to, with the way Jaden Shaw's playing and with the way Alex Morgan playing, if you want to put them top, that's fine. I get it. But Gotham FC should be number 2.
I don't disagree with that one bit. I think we're both confused on how that got set up. Again, we've said this a million times. Las Vegas knows something.
Yeah.
And maybe there's something going on here, but they thought, well, it's kind of a fluke that they won Gotham FC, which, let's be honest here, they barely made it to the playoffs.
They did. No, and they did. They squeaked in, and they got in by goal differential, which, and we talked about that. Sometimes that's all you need. Hey, we're going to get in and we're going to get healthy, we're going to get our squad back, and then we'll go. But, I don't know, to be plus 700, that feels like free money.
Let me give you this information here. So last year's final season records, they're really not that different. So San Diego Wave, we already talked about this, had the best record at 11 wins, 4 draws, and 7 losses. And you look at the champs, they went 8-7-7. That's not a major difference. So I think what it tells me is the gap in talent between the teams is very narrow.
Right.
And the fact that Gotham came in, as really a bottom seed to the playoffs. Why couldn't that just happen again?
Well, and again, we about Vegas, but it makes you want to like ask Vegas, hey, what is it about the San Diego Wave that you like so much more, or about Gotham FC that you like so much less? Like,
Right.
what difference there? I mean, is it the goal scorers? You would think not, with Rose Lavelle and Lynn Williams versus Alex Morgan and Jaden Shaw. Is it the defense? And maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's the back lines. I would have to dive into both teams' back line a little bit. But, again, Gotham FC brings in Emily Sonnet. I mean, like, I don't know. That, and again, maybe this is the homer in me, but that line, that plus 700, actually, it's not even the plus 700. If you want to give me plus 700 odds, fine. But the fact that they are fifth on the table,
It's shocking.
that shocks me.
All right, Chris, let's change rules here a little bit. You know, we've looked at the odds. We've checked out a few records. I know you're a Gotham FC fan, but
All right, go ahead.
are you really going to ride Gotham FC to be repeat champions? Let's put away that you're a Gotham FC fan and you've ridden behind them and you watched their offseason. How confident are you that Gotham FC will repeat as champions?
Like, highly confident. And I know I'm probably like jinxing them, and I'm so sorry. Gotham FC and Rose Lavelle is my fault. I apologize if things don't go our way. But based on the rosters, based on everything we've talked about, if you play this, if you take the top 8 teams, so we can talk about who they are, but if you take the top 8 teams based on the odds, I think Gotham FC wins that tournament 7 out of 10 times.
Whew.
So I am 70% confident
I don't know that I agree with that.
that they go back to back.
Are we talking about this year's roster or last year's roster?
This year's roster.
Okay.
Right now.
That makes sense.
So, I mean, that means you're playing Angel FC, Gotham, Courage, North Carolina Courage, Portland Thorns, the San Diego Wave. That's 5. And then actually, after those 5, the odds really, really skyrocket.
Oh, they plummet.
They believe in those 5 teams, and that's it. Then it looks like we have the Kansas City Current, the Orlando Pride, and then the Seattle Reign. So there are your 8 teams. You give me those 8 teams in a playoff, Gotham this year wins it 7 out of 10 times.
I don't know that I agree with that. Well, I mean, now that I'm thinking about this, I'm like, you've got the Portland Thorns that are just as loaded as Gotham FC, if not more. You've got the San Diego Wave, who, you can agree with this or not, have the best strike force in the entire NWSL.
Right now, I agree with that. In a year, that may be different, but right now, I agree with that statement.
I think Angel City FC has the most unlocked potential.
Yeah.
I think that's a team that could be the next Gotham FC to come out of nowhere and say, we're taking over the league. There's, as we said before, the gap between talent between the teams is so narrow that I don't know that any team could win it 7 out of 10 times. I think it's more 50-50 all throughout the league because you don't have 30 teams where the talent is so spread out.
Right.
You can stack these teams with national level players on multiple teams. Not necessarily just U.S. national team players, but we've got Nigerian players. We've got Zambian players. We've got Dutch, Canadian.
Yeah.
The talent is so tight. And that's where I'm looking at the San Diego Wave with the best strike force, in my opinion, to score that many goals.
And that is a phenomenal point. But again, if a team was stacking talent in this league, it's Gotham FC. And so that's why
I don't know that. And my point is, I don't know that Gotham FC stands alone. I understand that their offseason brought in talent, but the Portland Thorns were already loaded. San Diego Wave has a lot of talent.
right.
Angel City FC has youth that, if it gets unlocked, they could become that talent that just hasn't been seen yet. There's the potential for them to come through.
No, and I don't disagree with that, but if we circle back to the question you asked me, how confident am I?
Okay.
I'm going 70%.
Okay.
Let me throw a question again.
Fire away.
All right, so if you take out those, and I'm sorry I'm not looking at the screen and I'm pointing, but if you take out the top, what did we say, 5 teams?
Okay.
So you get to those really plus odds. So you're taking out Angel City FC, you're taking out Gotham, you're taking out the Courage, you're taking out Portland, and you're taking out the San Diego Wave.
Okay.
So now all of those teams you're looking at over plus 1,000 odds.
Yeah.
Which team do you think has potential to make a run?
Wow, that's a tough call.
To make that, maybe they don't win it, but maybe they end up in the semifinals or even the final. But what team do you like that is just like, okay, I kind of like what they've done, I kind of like who they are, let's ride them.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think from last year's point of view, I have to ride with Seattle Reign.
Yeah.
I think
Who is what the Girls Soccer Network expects to win the
now that
league.
makes sense. Well, and I think they have the manager that knows how to game plan.
Yeah.
So if that's the case we're going with, I'd ride with Seattle Reign. I still don't put Seattle Reign at the very top, but I put them at like 6th, 7th type of position,
happens, yeah.
And squeaking their way into the playoffs. But yeah, that's an interesting question here, Coach. So let me throw something back at you. If you were to place a bet on either expansion team to win a playoff game, because let's be honest here, 8 teams out of 14 are going to the playoffs.
Right.
Which expansion team can get to and win a playoff game?
So here, so I'm gonna, before I answer, I'm gonna ask you a question that I need to know the answer. Are we talking this 2024 season, or are we talking who's gonna win a playoff game first, Bay FC or the Utah Royals?
We're talking 2024 season solely.
All right, then I guess I take Bay FC. I think
they didn't go conservative.
They didn't go conservative.
They went in and got some goal scorers.
And they have some. Yeah, that's the thing. They have goal scorers. They also have some veteran players, even though they're expansion team. That they brought in a few veterans. I think Utah, and I don't know this, but I think they took the strategy of, hey, we're going to make sure we have the number 1 overall pick for the next couple of years. And in 4 or 5 years, that may pay off, as we have seen in multiple sports. But I think if you ask me this season, I'll take Bay FC to get to and win a playoff game.
I think that's more than fair.
I mean, but think about it. I mean, we keep going back to these odds, and who knows if these odds are any good. But what did we say? Only 5 teams? 6 teams have less than 100 or 1,000 odds? Less than plus 1,000.
Right.
So that means teams 7, 7, and 8, 6, 7, and 8 are going to be plus 1,000. And so if you get in, you got a shot.
Which, let's be honest here, that's probably what Gotham FC's odds were last year.
I agree. I couldn't agree more. Like, I love your choice of the Seattle Reign. I wish Racing Louisville had a true striker who we thought could score some goals.
I think as being our closest team.
No, 100%.
I think we're both disappointed that they didn't do enough to improve their squad.
Well, and another team we haven't even brought up all night tonight. I think Orlando Pride. I mean, they've been good the past couple of years. And And I think I got Orlando Pride might have been the team that Gotham FC beat out based on goal differential for that final spot in the playoff last season.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's another interesting team. I think that's what makes this league great. It's small.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be great to make the playoffs. But once you make the playoffs, it's anybody's game.
I think if NWSL plays this right and they keep it at 14 teams for the next, 3 to 4 years, they just signed that deal with ABC,
mm-hmm.
and they can start bringing in foreign players and make this the biggest women's league in the world. And I think we know, watching, NFL, NBA, NHL, there's so many teams that the talent is so spread out. But that's what makes this better. The gap in talent is so narrow, which means every game can be a quality match.
Absolutely. Well, Coach, before we sign off with our NWSL preview, I'm gonna hit you with it. It's clear that I'm gonna go with Gotham FC.
Yeah.
If I made you tonight pick an NWSL champion of 2024, who are you taking?
You and I have discussed this, but the women's league in general, multiple times. And I am a Jaden Shaw fan. She has MVP discussions. She's just one of those phenoms that can just get it done. And so I'm going to take the San Diego Wave. And I know that's kind of a cheap way to go because they have the best odds. They are the favorites, but there's a reason they're the favorites.
I agree.
Alex Morgan, Jaden Shaw up top with a few quality veterans spread out. If those two have the right chemistry, they will score every game.
Well, and here's what's fun about this, Coach, and I know that we aren't releasing this until Monday, March
18th.
18th.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm not mistaken, the kickoff game is San Diego Wave and Gotham FC, correct?
I believe that's true.
That is Friday night.
Yep.
Again, it'll be a moot point by the time people are listening to this. But it is what a great game to kick off the season.
Absolutely.
What a well done by the schedule makers of the NWSL. Let's take our returning champion and then our best team, according to the Vegas, and pit them against each other in week 1.
It's the right way to kick off your season, Coach.
Absolutely.
All right, Coach. Again, we want to thank you for joining us. We are the Ace Football Academy. We want to thank our sponsor, the A.C.E Car Wash. Locally owned and operated. Please go see them for all your car washing needs. I'm Coach Dunham. This is Coach Hamilton. This has been the NWSL preview for 2024. Go kick some ace.